Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Session 78, Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast with Nicole Sullivan this evening, and a true pleasure, an amazing guest, an amazing woman, amazing human, an amazing practitioner, and really humbled to have worked beside her, I guess kind of alongside her through a rehab process of my own in the past, and gotten to know her through some athletes that we have shared experience with and various pieces. But before we get to that, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. It's June something, I don't know, 20th, something like that. And it's Father's Day. So for all of you out there celebrating this or with the opportunity to share, happy Father's Day and all the best to everybody. As always, these sessions are brought to you by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. And just a reminder for all Ontario athletic therapists out there, the OATA board has announced that save the date of June 26th for the AMM. They've also announced they'll be having a series of town halls. This platform, Let's Chat, has always served as a vehicle to educate yourself and get informed. We all need some positivity during this pandemic as we begin to shift towards whatever normal looks like. And in the aims of listening and being heard, being transparent, collaborating, and uniting within this profession openly, the pandemic has challenged all of us. The OATA is a member-based association with a member-elected board, and therefore all member input should be valued and considered. So if you're a member of the OATA, please reach out, join the AMM. That's June 26th. Get informed, have your voice heard, and hear what is going on. If you're a member of another provincial chapter and want to get events out there, please reach out by email or on Instagram. So that's that, always in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. Nicole Sullivan. Nicole has always had a passion for movement, spending a lot of time riding the subway to soccer fields and volleyball practices, has always had the desire to create with, learn from, and motivate those around her. This naturally led her to the world of exercise science, sports medicine, and physiotherapy. The connections between the many complex systems of the body have always amazed Nicole, and she now uses an integrated, individualized approach and has found her strength in breaking down what can sometimes seem like a complex and overwhelming amount of information into simple, manageable terms and access from personal experience. This was an amazing experience for me as a patient of Nicole's, and we'll get into that potentially. But from personal experience working with her, she certainly listens, she educates and collaborates with patients to get them moving forward, whatever that looks like for the patient. Outside of Mend Physio, this amazing human is a lead therapist for Volleyball Canada's beach national team. Most recently, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, traveling to Mexico. I think that was your last travel. Is that your last international travel? She is the co-owner and founder of Mend Physio here in Toronto in the Leslieville, Riverdale area, an amazing little spot. Nicole, thank you for being here. Thank you for carving some time in. I know it's Father's Day and there's kids in the background and all of these things. So appreciate you spending some time.
Thanks for having me. Happy Father's Day to you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. It's a buzzy one. Yeah, a nice little picnic and time outside, kick the ball around. You have kind of an amazing story. We have some overlap with some people and some amazing athletes who I've spoken to sort of regularly, and people that you have regular interaction with in the volleyball scene, but your patients on a regular basis. How did, I guess, I mean, the overview, the bio sort of led us to how things evolved. What was the interest initially in sort of movement, and what was sort of the piece that said, aha, I need to do that? And then what was the evolution to Mend, and how did that come about? Because I think it's amazing all the things that you've done, and owning and founding something of your own is always a good share for other listeners.
Well, I definitely thanks for saying all those nice things. It definitely isn't like so straightforward. I mean, it's probably assumed because I did grow up playing sports that, I just like played sports and I had a physio, and then all of a sudden, I wanted to be like them. That isn't really, how it worked out for me. I had very little access to resources growing up, but I did have access to sport. And my best friend, her dad used to drive me to soccer, and my PE teachers in primary school and in high school, they really encouraged me a lot and like kept me out of trouble. And that helped me to hone some leadership skills and understand, wasn't the best athlete like physically, but I learned a lot about like how to be a leader and be a part of a team. And I never really got injured growing up, so I didn't have that interaction with a physio. And I played a lot of sports, a lot of hours, but I don't know, maybe because I did karate and dance from a young age, I didn't really, maybe I didn't have access to resources too. I don't know the reason. I never did. And then, through a series of unfortunate events in terms of my father was very ill and was palliating, a physiotherapist actually came to my house during palliation, and that was my first interaction with seeing what a physiotherapist did that wasn't sports side, and just kind of thinking like, oh, that's a kind of cool job. But because I had had so much leadership and help and empathy given to me from PE teachers and teachers in general, I really thought I was going to be a PE teacher. And I just was kind of into science, and I thought, I'll go to university and I'll do kin and I'll just probably be a PE teacher. And then once I stopped playing sports, just was, the natural progression to kind of miss it and then figure out where I would fit in and where I could still be involved in sports, like playing wasn't going to be in the cards for me once university started. And then I started working with teams. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do want to still be in this space. And I do want to pursue a life in physio, but it didn't come right away either. I did like a master's in sport medicine. I had some, good mentorship there too, and realized that academia wasn't for me either. And then it kind of slowly trickled into me, you know, eventually finding a program that sounded like a place where I wanted to be at McMaster. And then it kind of working with teams, it just kind of trickled on from there. And that's kind of what happened. And I just went to work, and the Volleyball Canada job kind of popped up, and I applied, and it was all in the same year, opening a clinic and doing that. I mean, it sounds so simple at that point. There was a lot of hoops when you graduate from school, and
Absolutely.
I've been trying really hard to make sure that I'm still in touch with new grads and help, because that's a really vulnerable time. And I think I really had to learn a lot in the first couple of years of work first before I got into making a decision of wanting to maybe go into clinic ownership, and also the desire to go into sport and know that it would be very challenging from a travel perspective and from, I don't even know, as
I think,
organizational perspective in Canada. It's hard. It's a hard go with family and friends.
yeah,
You give up a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Those sacrifices. And I'd love to get into some of that with you as well as we go. And I just love hearing people's stories, because the majority of
Mm.
people come on and they're like, I played sports. They had lots of access to resources and to sport. And then they got hurt themselves, and they're like, boom, that was it. Like, because I felt it, that's what I wanted to do. And it's really interesting to have sort of a non-linear, non-direct, unsmooth road, and to create your own path through that and your journey through that. And it seems, I guess, somewhat simple looking back at it, but obviously you've experienced all of those things along the way that, you know, you have to till it first, you have to, you know, put gravel down before you put pavement on top of that, or asphalt, or whatever the road is that you've made. And none of that's easy at the time, but in looking back, all worth it as you commit to the development of MEND and all the things that you're doing. Was there ever sort of, I mean, mentors along the way that sort of encouraged you to move into your own practice? Or I guess, how did that evolve as you were coming along? I don't want to say watered down, but there are plenty of people, and most people coming out of school, they think, okay, I'm going to work in pro sport, or I'm going to own my own clinic. Like, those are my options. And
Yeah.
how did you disseminate, and how did you pull the trigger? And then sort of, you know, the keeping it going part is a whole nother ball game. But
Yeah.
where did the decision to go out sort of on your own and do your own thing come from?
Like, gosh, I never thought that I would do either of those things. I never thought that I would have the ability to go work in pro sports. Like, I just didn't see the pathway. I didn't
Mhm.
understand the pathway. I didn't know how it worked from like a sexism perspective, like being a female, feeling like I didn't have enough experience. Like, I didn't know the ways to get there. And in terms of clinic ownership, there weren't a lot of role models for my business partner, for Candace and I. And it kind of was born out of neither of us wanting to do it or anticipating doing it. And then just,
Yeah.
year after year experiencing some like emotional and like just discomfort, like that discomfort that sits with you that makes you feel like you need to change, not necessarily make a change, and like understanding and unlearning and recognizing like all the systems around you and the systems, you know, that you're a part of that may be oppressing, and like different power dynamics, and just living and sitting in those and being really uncomfortable to the point where we just both felt at the same moment that we needed to just do something that was more along the lines of like our beliefs and our ethics, and it didn't really follow the framework of a lot of clinic owners that we had known before us, in terms of like people didn't encourage us and they didn't think it was a good idea to go out and be the way that we were and act the way that we were, which was just like more simple, like try to get people feeling like they're in charge of themselves again, try to empower patients, try to have like a no frills approach, like nothing fancy, not trying to like overly market, just like really getting back to basics and really trying to listen to people. And I did have mentors. I had so many wonderful mentors. And my biggest earliest mentor, Diane Lee, she's like a guru in the physio space, so to say, but she really helped me. I met her during when I was doing my master's. I wasn't even a physio yet, and just for her to give me the time and the space to listen to me and encourage me, that made me want to be a physio. And as I learned from her and was her student and her pupil, and eventually started teaching with her, she was the one who really encouraged me, and her teaching partner at the time, LJ. They really encouraged me and Candace to, go on your own. It's okay to be a female-owned business. It's okay to have a business partner. It's hard. You're going to be in like another marriage essentially. But if you have the same morals and same beliefs, you just have to be ready for anything. And if it's over one day, you be prepared for that. And if it's not over, like you nurture the relationship and just put your morals out there. And so that's kind of how it worked out. Like we didn't, it came out of need, and it came out of just being real with each other. We're not similar. We have very similar morals. Like we believe in the same goods, we believe in the same bads, we get hurt in the same way, but the way that we execute, the way that we plan, the way that we like understand and visualize things, they're very different. But the core of like the good and the bad, that's kind of what glued us. So that's kind of
Yeah.
why Mend is there. Hmm.
It's an amazing capture, and I think for anybody picking this up, the people that are here live, or the people that are picking up this up by podcast, the energy that radiates and resonates through your voice and your words, the simplicity is like, I don't know, it's the most beautiful word to describe it, and I don't mean to downplay that as any sort of negative connotation to simplicity, but walking into your space. So coming off of, just for context for those that are out there listening, a hip repair, a labral repair, osteochondroplasty on both sides of the joint, and a capsulotomy in a right hip of a right dominant sort of athlete in my prime years, I guess, or whatever. But a new father crawling around on the floor and all of a sudden can't crawl around anymore. So this needs to be fixed. And I know sort of some of the mechanics, so on and so forth. But walking in there, it wasn't, you're a hip surgery. It was, you're a human being. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to your body. We're going to do this together. And very much that piece of enabling the patient to be the power in the relationship. I think I learned that in our interactions through that rehab, and have grown from our interactions. And I don't think I ever reached back to thank you. Maybe I did through email, but here we are face to face and have a live audience and other people listening. So thank you for that, because at that role that you served at that time in my life, I think started the ball rolling towards this very human-centric approach, and sort of breaking down the mechanistic approach to rehab and strength and conditioning and all of these pieces that I don't think for any fault of anybody, but as we go through school, we sort of two-dimensionalize a lot of things. Things are all on paper, and it's tough to activate those things with humans for a lot of people until you have either an aha moment or you meet somebody who does it that way, and you're like, wow, this is super valuable and reasonable, and I don't have a whole lot to remember here when I walk out of here, other than like, here are the two things you don't want to do, but here are the 15 things that I want you to do, like think about the things that you can do. So thank you for that. First and foremost, as a selfish act, I wanted to have you on here to thank you in front of an audience, but it's true. It's an amazing space that you've created with this opportunity to find that. Is that sort of the main target when you say, yeah, we're not going to market, we're not going to pour things out there, it's going to be sort of word of mouth? It's going to be people who walk in are going to feel better when they walk out, and that's going to speak for itself. Is that a fair summation of how things work?
For sure. And I definitely think that it was, we had a lot of people that are not in the rehab space that were really trying to discourage us from having that as our main model of marketing. I mean, but that's just what we were comfortable with. We weren't really comfortable doing anything else. And we just like try really hard. We're just like those girls that try really hard, or I'll say we're those women. We just really want to make sure that people feel that they got the best value, and that we really were able to help them, and then that they can come back and trust us, and then maybe pass on the good word. Because we really felt like, especially in our neighborhood that we were working in, that neighborhood was like a big, like, who do you see and who do you trust, and who do you go to kind of neighborhood. And so we just really put ourselves out there and really tried to introduce ourselves to people in our community and other business owners too, and just let people know what we were about, and just hope that we were attracting that kind of person. So whoever we are, hopefully we can attract similar people. And it kind of worked. So we're still here, right?
Absolutely.
Pandemic and all, and 10 years, almost 10 years now. So it's worked out.
Yeah, a beautiful lesson all the way through. And you touched on teaching and maybe going, do your kin and then go and be a PE teacher. There's so much of this that's an element of teaching that I think you don't have to be in a classroom to be a teacher, but you also are a student every day. One of the things in your bio that is on your website as well is that you learn from your patients, the stories they tell, the way that they walk in, the way that they talk to you. You're continually growing that way, as well as, and we can go here as well, the academic or the hands-on skills or these other pieces are part of it. But I think this bigger piece is understanding, right? One another, compassion, empathy, these pieces of, and the pandemic has certainly shone a pretty bright light on what humans need. They need to move, they need to feel listened to, they need to be heard, and they need to be cared for at certain times, and feel like they can be themselves and get more out of themselves upon interacting with you and your staff there. So the teaching piece, you go back, I have a number of physiotherapy people in my life as well, and every one of them who champions for physiotherapy knows who you are and has probably studied under you or alongside you or something like this.
I'm humbled.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you should be, but also warranted to have all the praise. What do you do with teaching now? Is there an active component to your practice beyond the patients, and then also with patients? So let's just go there first. In the physiotherapy world, you take on students, you take on work study people. How does that work for you in
Yeah.
your space?
Well, I still try to volunteer with U of T, their physio program, just it's like local, it's close
Yep.
by. And after having my son, that was like, I was like, you know what, I do have a couple hours a week where I can pop in and help with the clinical labs. And one of my other mentors, Eason Young, he's one of the main guys there. And I just like to watch him to teach. I like to watch him teach as well. So even though I'm there volunteering, I get to watch someone lead and then also get to, you know, I'm like a pump up person. Like the students are so they just want to feel validated, and sometimes it's about like taking a step back, like always stepping back and like observing the context and seeing what's going on, and then being able to like quench some fears, allow people to like get back to a relaxed state, and then to be able to ask questions. And they're always so concerned that you'll be judging them. Like I think that helps me to slow down when I'm talking to patients as well. Like the context, it really matters. Like context matters. We can't prevent or treat or do anything if we don't know where somebody's coming from. And that's how I get like the student part. And these are my colleagues. These are people that are going to be coming into the profession and like providing the legacy and helping our profession. And if I want the next generation to like help break down some of those the negative parts, the health inequity parts, I have to show them kindness and humility, and hope that they can come in with confidence to work, but also show and pass that kindness and humility on to their patients, and that like you don't need to know everything, and I don't need to express a power dynamic, which I'm like really passionate about breaking a power dynamic down. I can show it to them, and I can hopefully have them pass through. And then I also teach in the orthopedic division, which is the continuing education for physiotherapists that are looking for I believe it's called the advanced integrated musculoskeletal training system. Now they rebranded the name, but it's basically like after you have finished your physio degree, if you want to do advanced ortho, that's the option in the community. So I work and teach in there as well, as much as I can. Yeah, that's about it
Yeah.
for the teaching part.
Well, it's enough. You're running a clinic, you're teaching, we're working with people every day, and I think all of this stuff is amazing. And we've had students on this podcast in the past, athletic therapy students, and trying to collaborate with multi-practitioners, right? Multi-dimensional approaches, transdisciplinary approaches, PT, chiro. Let's throw away titles and let's talk about the things that we're passionate about, and some of those things, the power dynamics and the kindness and compassion, and these are things that we don't get taught in school. These are things that we pick up from mentors, from conversations like this. And I think this platform as one avenue to showcase these things from living professionals who have been there and carved their own path and are doing amazing work. To hear it from you, it goes such a long way. So again, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here, because this is what this platform is geared towards, is showcasing your story because you're the expert of it. But in doing so, it's gaining expertise for myself in listening and hosting, and not having a script of where we're going to take this, but understanding that there's so much to learn from one another if we're just ready to listen and open to doing so. So really beautiful stuff and amazing capture. So not done yet, but session 78 here with Nicole Sullivan. There's some overlap, and congratulations to you for being a part of the volleyball world. A couple women in the beach scene recently qualified, right? It is both pairs qualified
Yeah.
for the Olympics.
Mhm.
Some overlap there with Mel Humana Paredes and her partner is Sarah, right? Pavin.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then Brandy Wilkerson, and the name slips me of her partner as I'm just going through this, but both were at York when I was there as an athletic therapist, both amazing young women, and were playing floor and indoor volleyball and then transitioned out. What was that like for you to have athletes qualify to the Olympics? I mean, it's not the first time probably for you, but always an exciting, I guess a little bit of a moment to sort of say, wow, like the work we're doing matters in this space too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so lucky that the time that I came into the program, we were on the upslope for the women, right? We were really starting to pick up speed, and Sarah Pavin and Heather Bansley were the previous Olympic team with Jamie Broder and Christina Valius. And that was from Rio. And so Heather and Brandy are now together as partners, and then Melissa and Sarah, and they've consistently ascended, and they're just such good people too. I was just thinking like I'm really lucky to work with them because I've seen them at such hard times and such good times too. Like you really get to know people when it's in different times of your life, and you can talk about things that are outside of volleyball, and check in with them, and like we're just humans. And so I'm just like so happy that when people get that Olympic stage for, you get all those little bio CBC puts together like little packages about these people's lives. Like now the world will get to know them a little bit better. And it's just like such a good thing for them to have that legacy. Like there's a lot of young women that look up to that group of, of four, and even Christina and Jamie from before too, that they really look up to them. And I'm just so happy that I get to be around them. And then on the men's side, we have amazing athletes and amazing guys too. And they're actually going to Mexico this week to try to win the last berth into the Olympics for the Canadian men. So there's 4 of them playing like a Davis Cup style. But at the end of that tournament, if they win the one berth for Canada, they actually have to play each other. So Ben Saxton, Grant O'Gorman, who is a York alum as
Yep.
well.
Yeah,
And then Sam Schachter and Sam Pedlow, they will have to play each other if they win. And whoever wins that duel will be joining us in Tokyo. So I'm just really lucky that the program was already there. It's great to have the skills. Like I'm not going to take any credit for the success. I just know that it's like being there and being a part of helping to hold myself accountable to be there and to show myself as being a consistent, like reliable source of expertise in my own little tiny area, and like however I can help them and give commentary to them to help them to improve themselves. I'm like so there for that, and I'm just so happy for any of them to call me as a resource. And I definitely am not going to be an expert at everything. We have to all know our silos and where we can like do our jobs the best. And again, I work very hard to make it this far with them, but also I know that I have a lot of privileges that afforded me the ability to be here too. So just really feel really lucky to work with them.
Yeah, and I mean, congratulations, because that you don't just get to stick around if you're not all of those things. And I think the one thing, showing up every day is easy, but showing up every day for who you are is a difficult thing to do. And that's one thing that I've recognized, through a lot of time, is that's hard to do, myself included, athletes included, and knowing that you can be who you are and give yourself. And you touched on some really great points: accountability, a reliable source of expertise, being there and showing up, and being the component that you need to be to support others. But you also touched on earlier, parenthood and the difficulty in needing to travel for this stuff, needing, but also getting, right? It is an opportunity. It is a privilege to do so. But you leave a lot of things behind when you do that. And how has that been, if you're okay to talk about it? And I think for younger practitioners out there, and the ones with the eyes really wide, and those of us with younger kids that, through a pandemic, we spent a lot more time with our kids, hopefully for those out there. And decisions at the end of a pandemic as things transition back to travel or whatever it may be. Not easy. So how have you dealt with that? Obviously, in whatever detail you're comfortable talking about. Yeah.
No, it's reality. And I had to come back to the sexism part of it too. You are given opportunities just at the time, and sometimes for women we have different considerations. Like I really, really wanted to be here for this Olympics. I really wanted to make it, to the Olympics in general. It's like a big carrot, right? But at the same time, like I really wanted to be a mom, and figuring out the timing of when to do that and how to do that. And luckily I have a really supportive partner that's from a sports family that understands, but it doesn't mean it's easy. When I'm away, he has to stay with our kid. And when I was 5 weeks postpartum we went to world championships in Hamburg, and like with a 5-week-old baby, and like having to come back and pump and feed my kid. And my husband was there for the first week, and then he had to go to Notre Dame to write. He writes football for Notre Dame, wrote on the Notre Dame side, so we had to leave. And then my brother's girlfriend was there, and she was helping take care of my kid. And you know what? We won, like Sarah and Mel won world championships. Like that's huge. And to be there for that was amazing. But I had to have a lot of people helping me and a lot of support. And I also had to have my employer, like Volleyball Canada, had to be down with me having my kid there. And the athletes also were showing a lot of compassion too. Like I was still showing up and doing my job, but there are times when my son would be crying and I'd have to say, listen, I just need 5 minutes. They never discounted my professionalism for wanting to have both. And so delaying it a year, it's been tough. Like I'm about to leave for 5 weeks. And so again, my husband's going to have to, he's going to miss a bunch of work. He's going to probably fly out to Vancouver to be with his family, because during the pandemic, it's really hard. We haven't been seeing our sources of support. My mom hasn't been able to come and help take care. Like we don't have anyone. We just have us. And so with me going, if my husband wants to get work done and also just taking care of a very active 2-year-old, you need help. And so again, like we lean on family, but it's not easy. And it's definitely like 5 weeks is a really long time to be away from anybody that you love, but to be away from your partner and your child, it's tough. Like I won't pretend it's fine, but also to like remember that being a good parent is like working on all the other parts of your whole self. And that's a big part of what makes me my whole self. And I'm very lucky that even if it's hard, my partner, he supports me, and it's a good example for us to be able to step back and say, thanks so much for doing that for me. Like I have to be humbled that he's helped me. I would do the same for him. So
Yeah, amazing.
yeah.
And appreciate you sharing those parts with everybody, with me, with us here tonight. Those are critical components to life in the fast lane, to life at high level sport, all the considerations that go into it. And some recent examples have highlighted that, right, in women's sport and an NCAA tournament, the basketball tournament there with Adia Barnes and the head coach at Arizona, and the inequities that were shown through the men's and women's sport there in basketball, and then again in sort of the College World Series and softball in the NCAA, and just sort of showcasing some of those pieces live, right? And these are the experiences, and these are real, and motherhood is a thing unto itself, let alone being there to service others and care for and drive home the professional demeanor and all the pieces that go into winning a world championship. And what an amazing feat. And I'm sure all of those around you are in awe of that as well, and managing all of those pieces. It's just terrific to see. And the beach world is an interesting one, right? It's an interesting sport. A lot of athletes have transitioned, right? And so maybe we'll transition here as well over into sort of some of the professional space and the development and the education pieces that have sort of solidified your manual skill set and your skill set in the clinic. The human first approach is obviously of the utmost importance, and I think you've highlighted that, and it resonates, and it really we can feel that in listening to you. When it comes to skill sets, maybe not as a secondary thing, but as somebody who's been in practice for as long as you have, where does that rank when you're talking with, or how do you evaluate that in students, and how do you evaluate that in yourself in terms of, I'm this type of therapist? I was asked the other day, like, this person says they're this and they say they're this, like, what are you? And I said, like, I don't know how to answer that question. So I'll throw it your way and see if you can answer it. Yeah, when it comes to sort of highlighting, what do you need to know, and how do you deem yourself a strong practitioner?
Yeah, I was reflecting on this because I thought that we might talk about it, and I remember that I remembered when I was doing some courses at the beginning of my career, and I have taken everything, and it's just because I'm really curious to see how other people think and like solve problems. It's not because I want the cred, but I've taken everything I just
Hmm.
like signed up for another master's at Western, like their sport and exercise medicine. I just finished the IOC sport physiotherapy, physical therapies program. Like I'm constantly just trying to learn stuff because I just like to see, like, put on different people's thinking caps. Like there's no right, there's no wrong. I'm just like looking around. I like reading. But I remember at the beginning of my career, when I was taking the manual therapy levels, that there was like definitely like when you get good at handling the joint, or when you get good at feeling this, like you'll know. And there was like a mysticism about it. And then another one of my mentors said she was so offended because somebody said like to her, and I don't think that they meant this in a negative way, it's like, it doesn't really matter. It just matters that you're nice. And she took it as offensive. And I remember thinking, like, wouldn't it be nice though if someone did come back to you because you were nice? Like, I think I actually would value that, but I felt kind of like weak. Like, I felt like that was like wrong to feel that way. And like, full circle to come back to it, I think I was talking to my partner about this. If you ask people why they come to me or why a patient would recommend me, I don't think it would have anything to do with like hard skills. I think it actually would be because people would say, she's nice, or she made me feel good about myself, or she like gave me agency of my body, or she's good at answering my questions. I feel like that was all the stuff that I didn't learn in courses directly, but indirectly learned in courses by watching the way that people talk to each other, or watching my patients talk to me, or telling me about their interactions, positive or negative, that they had with other people. So even when we go to hire, or I'm interviewing somebody to hire them for our clinic, we like to ask them about non-therapy stuff. Because like people can learn, they went to university, they learned some things. Like you can teach
Yeah.
someone to do a certain thing or to think a certain way, but maybe just like asking about people's hobbies, or like asking about what makes people passionate or happy or sad,
Yeah.
that kind of, I think that that learning, and like everyone will be so different. It doesn't mean that you're like a better practitioner because you learned something one way or have all these skills. Like, I mean, sure, it can help you. Maybe you may have like 10 tools instead of 5. So maybe you can find a good match with the person that you're working with. But I do think that that really stuck with me about the emotion that I felt when the person said, like, you know, I'm so insulted. They said it was just like because I was nice. And I was like, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. So
Yeah.
maybe that's not a
And
great answer about skills, but
it's actually probably the greatest capture that I've heard in terms of this. You know, you touched on it earlier. You said one thing like we're just humans, and I think understanding that each one of us is a human and each one of us experiences those things. Yeah, if somebody's going to come back to you because you're nice, that's a pretty high praise. That's a pretty great compliment to have, and I would agree that is a reason that I would come back to see you from personal experience. But also having knowledge in the space and then being able to talk that through at various levels, right? So being able to break it down at high level, have a complex conversation with the people that you need to have complex conversations with, and then being able to simplify it to you know, me on a bad day or me on a really good day, who knows, that needs to understand it a different way. That piece of it is, again, soft skill, and the soft skills play. This is what I'm more and more aware of on a regular
yeah.
basis, and more aware of the fact that everybody's an expert online. Everybody's got the book that they could just go to page 73 and say, look, we should be doing this, or we've done it this way for this long, and here's some data to prove it. Okay, that's wonderful, but like, what about that human being? And for us in our space, it's the human being under the jersey, right? In the sports space specifically, but strip away jersey and put on caretaker, put on mother, put on whatever the role is that somebody is aligned with or attached to or defined by in their life. If we don't understand that, we don't understand anything. And so FRC or PRI or ART, like whatever acronym you want to use, is relevant only in the context, as you touched on already. So some amazing captures, and just, I don't know, again, like I reflect on our time together often, and wish that maybe we can have more conversations on a regular basis. I'll just come in and be a patient just to learn from you, or volunteer once more humans are allowed in spaces. I'll walk around the corner and do some of that stuff. Some amazing captures. So what's next for you in terms of, you said you're going away for 5 weeks, right? Obviously the Olympics and things are coming. Where's that? What's coming next for you? And I guess we can kind of wrap this thing up. Don't want to keep you too long here this evening, but take that wherever you so choose.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta be a mom, so I think like whatever that brings. The pandemic has been challenging. Like my son's not even, he's not talking yet, and he's 2, and we need to stay supportive and keep working with him, and that's work. That's part of my job, and that's like the best part of, being a parent, is like working and trying to be loving and do it when you're tired. So that's what's coming up for that. That's a for sure. The clinic, I mean, just making sure that we keep making a safe space for everyone. And it's really challenging in terms of being a boss through this pandemic, because people aren't all right, and people are really working, and they're working as caregivers too. So trying to continually check in and make space for those people, but also take time for ourselves. So knowing that there's going to be a period to come down after the Olympics, like there's that 5 weeks I'm going to be away, but then I'm going to have to come back and go back to life again. And it's like a really intense situation for that moment. But then real life exists on such a grand scale outside of these athletic events that seem like the biggest thing for that moment. And they are the biggest thing for when you're focusing, for sure. But to know that there's so much in the world that needs to be done and needs to be noticed. I think my heart lies in like figuring out where I stand in the world of health equity, and how I can figure out what I'm doing to like uphold, or to help not uphold, or be aware of like whatever inequities are being upheld right now. And so figuring out if that's in the teaching space or the academic space where I can help our profession, or to figure out where we can take down some of these systems. So I don't think I'm going to do my PhD, but who knows? I have a lot of mentorship right now too. So I think like digging in, if my mentor has time, Tracy Blake, she's awesome. She helps me so much to just what to read and understand where I fit in there. So wherever that takes me, I think that'll be where I am. But I'm pretty good at just rolling with what comes in. So that's more my style.
Yeah,
And no, I don't get stressed out about a million things coming, but I always have a full plate, and then just making sure that I give attention to the things that I choose to give attention to, and to be mindful that how it's impacting other people around me.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And I think the humility, and again, sort of the awareness that you have of everything that goes on, and not emptying your cup in one area and filling one area and leaving others out, right? It's a juggling act. The balance of things has to sway a little bit. And amazing shares all night long. I've made pages and pages of notes over here. I appreciate you carving in some time. I guess just before you go, when it comes to athletes specifically, just before you run off here, dealing with athletes and dealing with non-athletes, how do you differentiate there? Where do you put the intensity, or what does the conversation or the interaction feel like? Or does it change when it comes to preparation or carrying out an event versus preparation or caring in the clinical space for somebody in their daily life that isn't an athlete?
Yeah, I think context, again, like context matters. Like, where did someone come from? What's happening in their daily life? People make a lot of assumptions about athletes and what privileges are bestowed to them, but there's a lot of inequities that are imposed upon them as well. So I think preparing mentally to make sure that I have all the emergency stuff, all the checklists for all the emergency things ready, but then at the same time making sure that I don't come in with any assumptions about where someone should be at, or what they should know, or what they don't know, or what kind of life experiences they've been having in the last few days, months, years. So I think just in terms of like where society has laid a little bit of overlay or glasses on you to make assumptions about certain people, I think just trying to come in really open, and in that athletic space especially, really not should make assumptions about any patients, but in that athlete space, they really, sometimes athletes are resistant to also give you all the information because they feel that they're bind or tied to certain personas or certain lifestyle, or how they have to uphold some kind of image. So yeah, I think that's maybe the only thing that might be different, is to really have to check myself before I enter the situation, not to be upholding those assumptions as well.
Yeah, and knowing yourself, and I think that's another key piece is we can't know another unless we know ourselves. And so taking that time to check in, taking that time to evaluate and reflect before entering a scenario. No assumptions, no frills. But then adding a K and adding a W at the end of no, and just knowing who's there in front of you, and where you are at as a practitioner and as a human interacting with them goes a long way. So we'll wrap it up there, because I feel like we could stay on here for hours and hours, and maybe we'll do it again at the other side of a gold medal or a gold and a silver, or however it's going to work out in Tokyo. An amazing evening this evening with Nicole Sullivan here. Mend Physio, people can find you there. That's probably a central place. Is that fine if people can? Yeah. So people can reach out through there or through me, and I'm happy to connect you with Nicole as well. It's been plenty of shares, plenty of caring, compassion, as always, real as real gets. And session 78, Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. We'll go again next week with Coach Aaron McElwain, and the newest head coach at UBC with the women's basketball program out there. Session 80 will also go this month, we hope, with Drew Hutchison. That's session 4 of 4, part 4 of 4, with our Tommy John education series. So stay tuned, tune back in. Remember, OATA members, June 26th, that's the AMM. So make sure you're there, make sure you get heard, make sure you also turn your listening ears on. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. Everybody for being here live. And those of you picking up the podcast, as always, brought to you by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. Thanks again, and good night. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.